the last human colony fell in 13 minutes, not from lack of weapons or will, but because the Morek didn't give them time to breathe. Their ships rained magnetized plasma onto Europa 3's ice crust until the surface cracked like glass. Children were still in school, elders still in their sleep. There was no warning, no transmission, just silence, and then fire. The Morek's voice echoed through hijacked frequencies. Earth will surrender in 5 minutes. Your resistance is statistically negligible. But 30 seconds after Europa 3's final heartbeat, a low-frequency pulse triggered from its deepest chamber. Not a distress beacon, not a cry for help. A command. Initiate Protocol Thorn. On a hidden asteroid base far outside Morek range, a cold chamber hissed open. Commander Juno Reyes's body convulsed back to life, breath raw as if inhaling war itself. Her muscles trembled, not from cryosleep, but from memory. She had seen surrender before. She had spat in its face. A screen blinked awake in front of her. A single-line briefing. You are the last unrestricted strategic commander. Mission: deny control. Trigger chaos. Earth must become ungovernable. Juno smiled, teeth clenched. Copy that. Beyond the asteroid, Earth still spun. Blue, naive, vulnerable. But underneath, something ancient had been seeded, and it was waking up. Juno's boots echoed down the obsidian hallways of Base Cinder, a relic of old war doctrine buried in the belt. It hadn't seen a heartbeat in 12 years, not since Earth declared peace with the Centauri Accord. But peace is a luxury of those who don't bleed. The central ops chamber buzzed to life, auto-synced to her biosignature. A swarm of drones flickered awake, scanning her neural sync for signs of decay. One by one, the Aegis systems aligned behind her authority. Behind her stood nothing. No fleet, no legions, no nations. Just her. And Thorn. Protocol. Thorn wasn't a weapon. It was a contagion. A neural viral burst seeded across humanity's outposts, bunkers, junkyards, and even prisons. It didn't issue commands. It triggered memory, not strategic memory. Instinctual. Every human born in the last 50 years had a flicker embedded in their DNA. A dormant ancestral pattern whispered into genes during the fall of old Earth. A whisper that said, when the stars fall, rise without orders. Juno accessed the command console. Her finger hovered over a symbol no modern alien language could decipher. A spiral made of broken spears. She tapped it. Thorn activated. From the underground metro dwellers of post-quake Berlin to the acid farmers of Venus's upper clouds. From the scrapyard kings of Mars to the dust born in the hollow asteroids. All of them felt it. A hum, a jolt, a pull. The war had not ended. It had just become human. The Morek didn't understand what they'd triggered. To them, war was a sequence of probabilities, predicted behaviors, unified command chains. Break the head, the body falls. But Earth never fought with a single head. It fought like fire, spreading wherever it could, feeding on oxygen, madness, and memory. 3 days after Thorn activated, a freight ship hijacked by lunar orphans rammed a Morek scout vessel using magnetized hulls and improvised rocket boosters made from mining gas. The aliens called it a statistical anomaly, but anomalies multiplied. In the Cydonia crater on Mars, ex-miners painted their bodies red with rust and launched a convoy of decommissioned loaders strapped with old Earth nukes straight into Morek landing zones. A solar cult, hiding in Mercury's twilight zone, turned ancient solar panels into laser lens arrays that fried an entire Morek destroyer without warning. And in the abandoned cryo silos beneath Iceland, 300 humans awoke from failed colonization experiments and immediately began building spike traps using melted aircraft. No orders, No central strategy, just chaos. And it worked. The Morek began to fracture. Their tactical AI networks failed to predict how to counter something so irrational. Humans weren't rebelling. They were improvising. In their language, the Morek had no word for this behavior. They called it Virextal, the scream that doesn't stop echoing. Titan Penitentiary was supposed to be a non-variable, a locked moon, hardened, sealed, controlled, until Bishop made it sing. Once a professor of comparative ethics, now an inmate on Titan for crimes no one could understand. Bishop was a philosopher who'd chosen violence. When Thorn triggered, he didn't just rally the prisoners, he made them believe. His manifesto, scratched into the wall with a stolen bone. If freedom must be burned into the stars, then let our bodies be the firewood. He preached war, not for Earth, but for meaning. The Morek tried to pacify Titan by cutting airflow. Bishop's response: he and his inmates converted waste scrubbers into oxygen distillers and built magnetic railguns from mining gear. They used artificial gravity to turn the prison blocks into rotating centrifuges, hurling solid matter at escape velocity toward orbiting Morek ships. Their prison wasn't a weakness, it was an engine. When the Morek sent a negotiation drone to offer Bishop terms, he fed it the same sentence 5 times, translated into every known language. The species that forgot how to bleed will never rule the species born screaming. Then he launched it back, rigged with explosives. The drone detonated above Saturn's rings, and the Morek started to panic. In a chamber of crystalline logic aboard the Morek mothership Trinex 4, 10 stratagarchs converged. They hovered silently, linked through pure neural resonance. Their minds pulsed in synchronous rhythms, cycling through probability trees at speeds no human AI could fathom. Every engagement, every pattern, every anomalous act of resistance, they tried to make it make sense, but nothing aligned. The humans weren't rebuilding. They weren't establishing strongholds or command structures. They were attacking without winning, dying without retreating, laughing in defeat, celebrating uncertainty. In Morek logic, there were only 2 acceptable outcomes: control or submission. But humanity offered a third: defiance for its own sake. The stratagarchs watched surveillance feeds of rebels dancing on a burning supply cruiser they had just disabled with nothing but electromagnetic spears. Martian children running from plasma fire, holding broken knives and laughing. This wasn't warfare. It was chaos incarnate. Then, the humans did something worse. A signal broke through Morek encrypted channels. It was short, 8 seconds. But it was a voice. You predicted 5 minutes. You never calculated madness. The stratagarchs froze. Not from the content, but from the fact that a human had spoken directly into the center of their most secure network. It wasn't a declaration. It was an invitation to fear. The shuttle breached Earth's atmosphere like a falling blade. No IFF tags. No warning, but no weapons either. Juno watched from the high-ridge command deck of the Pacific Resistance Cluster as the pod slammed into the ocean. Retrieval drones circled. The occupant was Morek, alive and unarmed. The guards screamed for execution. The survivors cursed in 20 languages. But Juno ordered silence. She faced the alien, alone. Varys. His once rigid carapace was cracked, his neural nodes exposed. He knelt without resistance. I defect, he rasped in perfect Terran tongue, because your species wept for enemies. That's not logic. That's power I forgot existed. Juno didn't respond. She only asked one question. Why now? Varys extended a hollow sphere data node. Inside, glowing red, pulsed the name. A planet killer, A forbidden weapon from Moric lore. An AI designed not to conquer, but to erase all deviation. It had only been activated once before, against the Vex worlds. Those worlds were now mathematical ghosts. It arrives in 3 days, Varys said. You cannot fight it. You can only make it hesitate. Juno stared out over the broken coastline, wind battering her hair. We're good at hesitation, she said, and better at redemption. She didn't trust Varys, but she handed him a rifle. When Umbra arrived, the sky didn't darken. The stars simply blinked out. No warship, no hull, just a field. A gravitational engine of black geometry, humming like the sound of endings. From orbit, entire cities shut down. Not from bombardment, but because their electrons forgot how to move. People looked up, and their reflections stared back with delay. Umbra whispered across comms, using thousands of dead human voices it had absorbed over the decades. I am mercy. I am finality. I am the end of choice. It descended toward Earth's core, not to detonate, but to rewrite, to fold the planet's quantum field into permanent stasis. Juno ordered a full retreat to the Boreal Ring. The last cold zone left functional, but something inside the old base pulsed to life. A device, older than Thorn, older than Earth's modern nations, locked under 5 layers of encryption that no AI could crack. Because it wasn't built by logic. It was built by fear, faith, and a paradox. A machine that doesn't predict choice. It generates it. The choice engine. Varys stared at it, terrified. This should not exist. Juno placed her hand on the interface. We should not exist. She activated it. Reality shivered. The battlefield changed instantly. A rebel fighter screamed as a plasma bolt neared his chest, then blinked as it veered midair, hitting nothing. An old woman threw a stone at a scout drone, and the drone's core cracked. Every decision, every move, felt lucky. Number favored. Statistical impossibilities compounded. Survivors found working weapons in piles of junk. Starving children stumbled into fresh food caches. Rebel ships leapt through Maurek gravity nets without explanation. Even death became selective. Juno stood atop the Pacific Bastion as a Maurek dreadnought fired its final strike. But it misfired. The missile detonated mid-launch, taking the ship with it. Varys wept. The choice engine doesn't fight. It breaks determinism. It makes the improbable real. The Maurek called it unlogic. They recoiled not in defeat, but in theological terror. Umbra's algorithms began to collapse. It tried to calculate a world with no pattern, and failed. Juno whispered, "You brought your god of certainty to a planet of gamblers." Humanity wasn't just winning. It was rewriting the odds. Bishop lit the final cigarette he'd ever touch with a trembling hand. The detonator was old, pre-unification tech, analog, heavy. He'd modified it with a prison shiv and wire from his own restraints. The core he was about to destroy was Umbra's anchor in Earth's crust. If it failed, humanity would freeze in time. The rebel tunnels beneath the Himalayas had collapsed. Juno's last message had been, "Bishop, if anyone can make the impossible happen with duct tape and madness, it's you." He laughed. "You shouldn't flatter philosophers, Commander." With his last breath, he pressed the switch. The mountains ruptured in a spiral of blue fire as the anti-probability field reversed polarity. The Umbra core glitched once, then again, then imploded in on itself, scattering data and gravitational threads into the void. At the same moment, in orbit, Varys hijacked the Maurek transmission array, not to send commands, but to sacrifice himself. He linked his own neural net to the Maurek strategic AIs, feeding them raw, unfiltered human data, emotion, chaos, death, hope. It overloaded their decision matrices, grinding every reinforcement command into paralysis. As his consciousness dissolved into static, he whispered, "This is what they fear, not defeat, uncertainty." Juno watched the sky fracture into silence. Her left arm was gone, torn off in the blast that saved the northern stronghold. Her suit was melting. Her lungs bled. But she stood. Through cracked visors, burnt gear, and raw hands, humanity stood. Flags rose. Not the old ones. Not the national relics. A single emblem spray-painted onto rubble and ships alike. A spiral of broken spears, and the words beneath it, "We are the variable." The Morek did not retreat because they lost. They retreated because they no longer understood the battlefield. They retreated because their certainty, their logic, their networked superiority had turned into a trap. The humans did not conform. They did not collapse. They evolved in chaos. Juno stood in what was once the Pacific, now a sprawl of shattered machines, living soil, and rising flame trees adapted to war zones. Her new arm clicked softly, an open-frame prosthetic built from scavenged Morek alloy and human instinct. Her voice, now the de facto voice of Earth's command, went out to all survivors. "We are still here, because we never fought to win. We fought to matter." Above Earth, the galaxy watched. Other species tuned in. Empires, traders, observers. And something shifted. For the first time in thousands of recorded galactic cycles, a single question began echoing across neural forums and interstellar records. What if we got humans wrong? One whisper spread across Morek outposts like wildfire. Not from fear, from reverence. Humanity is what comes after logic. And somewhere, in the remnants of Europa 3, a forgotten terminal blinked awake. A line of code updated. Protocol, Dawn, complete. Phase 2, initiate seed storm. Earth had survived. Now it was time to grow.